it's not the change in the campus only. The change in the house is from the mothers. And I always, how often you hear, how did you learn this? My mom taught me. And then you ask your mom, how did you learn this? My mom taught me. So imagine if my mom or your mom taught us wrong and not intentionally, ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. That's what they know. What will happen? So absolutely, the education for women, and I'm so passionate about it, because I started this journey when there was nothing, literally in the United States. It started after September 11. Who will teach you about Islam? Let alone who will even talk about Islam. So for all the brothers, may Allah reward you all for teaching your sons, but also push it for your sisters, for your daughters, for your wives. And the same thing, sisters, don't say there is nothing where I'm going to start. Just turn to Allah and He will open the doors for you. And I mean, my journey taught me that I can't plan anything. Allah is the planner. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever He gave me, give you and give you even more. So the interesting thing about the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim, there was no mother in the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim. But there is a wife, actually 2 wives, and 2 mothers. So I was asked to talk about migration or immigration, whichever you want to say it. Maybe 50%, maybe less in this room, people who have migrated. Am I right? Can I see hands of people who are what we call them first generation, meaning like myself, right? Can I see hands? That's not too bad, actually. If you come to St. Louis, you will see all the hands. Right? So anyway, for those of you who did not raise your hands, your parents would have raised your hands. If you ask any immigrant, I wouldn't say 99 because may Allah forgive me. Why did you come to America? What will be the answer? Can anyone volunteer? Let's be honest. Allah knows. Yes. For education. Huh? Let's put it in a nicer way. The sister said money. Let's put it in a little bit nicer way. Better life, right? Better life, more opportunity, right? Is that haram? You know how we Muslims love the word haram? Everything is haram. And not everything is haram, by the way. The essence of the deen is everything is halal, unless Allah tell us. So when we came to the States, was that for Allah? Don't answer me because only Allah knows what I'm trying to share with you. One of the so interesting aspects of Sayyidina Ibrahim's life is his immigration or his migration. He was the only Nabi who migrated twice or even more. It depends how you look at his journey. And he was born where? Where is he originally from? Yes, where I was born. And there was actually a city, the name of it is Ur. That's where he was. Then he moved where? Let's just see how much we know. And then I'm going to share with you what do we need to learn from this journey. Where did he move to? 2 questions, where and why? Where did he move to? He moved to Bilad al-Sham. There was no Palestine at that time. It's Bilad al-Sham. And then he was back and forth, but then Mecca. So here you go. 2 questions. And this will apply to us, because why do we need to learn all this information? Literally, the question should be, what does it do to me living in 2021, living in Detroit or St. Louis or San Francisco? What do I need to learn? Young and old, I need to bring this to my life and say, can I do this? Maybe I did. So he was born, raised, lived in Iraq, Ur. What was the problem? And I'm going to share with you a story from the Quran, right? He was from young age, was not convinced what's around him is right. And you need to check points here. Everybody was different. Everyone does this. You know, you hear this all the time. I'm not going to put my hijab. All my friends doesn't do it. I am not going to go and pray in the masjid. All my friends doesn't do it. That was Sayyidina Ibrahim. That was Sayyidina Ibrahim, where he was growing. But he didn't give up and leave right away. That's what he learned. So he was still there, right? First challenge was home. وإذ قال إبراهيم لأبيه يا أبت لم تعبد ما لا يسمع ولا يبصر ولا يغني عنك شيئا. Surah Maryam. Daddy, this is exactly how he said it. Ya abati. Daddy, he didn't tell him, oh kafir. Wasn't rude. No. Ya abati, my dad. Why? Meaning, convince me, maybe I'm wrong. Dialogue. Ya abati, daddy, why? Why do you worship something doesn't hear, doesn't listen? ولا يغني عنك شيئا, and will never benefit you. And then he continued. I know a little bit more than you know. How did the father responded? Oh, it's okay, don't worry. You do whatever you want. قال يا إبراهيم لئن لم تنتهي. If you're not going to stop, quote unquote, this nonsense, لأرجمنك, I'm going to stone you. وهجرني مليا. Now the word hajr or hijrah. Get out. Leave. And what did he say? Does anyone know? How did he respond to his father? Salamun alayk. Peace be upon you. That teaches you and me. People can be rude. People disagree with me. People make fun of me, make fun of you. I'm sure any one of you in the public life, people will ask you questions. Allah knows their intention. Don't be rude. Don't get offended. Walk and say, Allahumma ghfir li qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamoon, as the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam taught us. Ya Allah, forgive my people. They don't know. If they know the beauty of what I and you know, they will not say this. قال سلام عليك. Okay, Daddy, I'm going. But before that, he didn't just leave right away. He actually had discussion with his people also. So first is home, second is community. And apply this to yourself. What is the challenge you have in your home? Young. He was a young man. He was not married yet. What challenge you have in your home? Your parents wants you to pray and you don't want it. And your husband wants you to wear hijab. You don't want it. And then his community. He didn't leave them before. He tried. And tried with wisdom and tried with proof. And the beauty, if you want to really learn the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim, he, by the way, was mentioned 69 times in the Quran. He actually, go read Surah Al-Anbiya, the prophets, read Surah Maryam, read As-Saffat, and of course Surah Al-Baqarah. And Al-An'am. In every chapter, there's part of the Sayyidina Ibrahim character. So in Al-Anbiya, he and the people around him. Right? What did he say? Or actually in Ash-Shu'ara is the other one. ما تعبدون واتلو عليهم نبأ إبراهيم. This is in Ash-Shu'ara. واتلو عليهم نبأ إبراهيم. Recite to them the story of Ibrahim. إذ قال لقومه ما تعبدون. Question, what are you doing? And then قالوا نعبد أصناما فنظل لها عاكفين. We worship idols. And then he responded, what we need to learn, again, how do I respond to the doubts in me, number one? We Muslims becoming doubtful of the basics, and probably Sheikh Abdullah knows what I'm talking about, the questions we get these days. 10 years ago, I never heard this. We as Muslims starting to doubt everything. Al-ma'loom bid-din bil-darura, the people are now doubting. So what did he say? He looked at them and says, and they said, who's your Lord? من Allah, من ربك? Look what he said. What did he say? الذي خلقني فهو يهدين. He's the one who created me. He's guided me. والذي هو يطعمني ويسقين. The one who feed me and give me water. How many of us, when we put a bite in our mouth, I say, this is my Lord feeding me. That's Sayyidina Ibrahim. Then he gave up. سأعتزلكم. I'm leaving. That's the first hijrah. Why did he leave? For better life? For better job? He left because he was worried about his deen. Question for everybody, young and old, men and women. How many of us, when we're standing in front of Allah, we're going to say, Ya Allah, I left because I cannot do this anymore. My deen, my religion. And he left. And he went to, first he went to Sham, actually. And he was tested there because they went through difficult time. Then he moved to Egypt. Then he got married to Sayyidah Sarah. And you all know the story. I don't want to get into this story because you should know it or you can read it easily. I want to share with you a verse from the Quran, not related to Sayyidina Ibrahim, but so much related to Sayyidina Ibrahim and you and me. Allah said this in Surah An-Nisa. وَمَنْ يُهَاجِرْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعة ومن يخرج من بيته مهاجرا إلى الله ورسوله ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على الله. Give me your hearts before your brain. ومن يهاجر في سبيل الله, whomsoever migrate, leave for the sake of Allah, what he will find? Allah said, يجد في الأرض, he will find in this earth, on this earth, مراغما كثيرا, you will find a lot of good. ومن يخرج من بيته, and then who leaves his house, this is specifically about the house. ومن يخرج من بيته ثم يدركه الموت, then he dies, Allah will reward you. I'm sure all of you are asking, well, we are here already. Where I'm going to go? I mean, if I move, I'm going to move from Detroit to Texas. We just had this discussion because this is too cold and that's much nicer. Or there's a much better Muslim community there. You don't need to leave anywhere. You don't even need to move a step. And you're still a muhajir. Do you know the hadith of Rasul ﷺ about the hijrah? I'm not talking about the hijrah of Medina to Medina. I'm talking about the hijrah of the Muslim. Al-Muslim, man salama al-Muslimuna min yadihi wa lisaneh. You probably know this part. The real Muslim, is that person, she or he, where the Muslims feel safe around him or her from their tongue and from their hand. Oh, I am around Muhammad. I know I'm not going to hear anything that will bother me. Oh, I am around Sarah. Oh, alhamdulillah, I know she will not hurt me. That's the Muslim. And then the second, al-Muslimu. Now you ask yourself, each one of you, al-Muslimu, the real Muslim, the one, man hajara, the meaning of who migrated away from everything that disobeyed Allah. You know the example? Simple example. Don't go anywhere. You're on your laptop preparing a talk. You're on your laptop getting to know something, doing a research, looking for a recipe, checking your email. And what happens? All of us know this. What happens? What comes out? All these ads, all these pictures, true or false? Remember this hadith. This is your hijrah. When you lower your gaze, when you put your hand on that picture, when you don't listen, you're a muhajir. You're a person who migrated for the sake of Allah. Because as Sheikh Hani said before me, the desires, and Sheikh Abdullah commented on this, the desires is the biggest problem we have. I want it. I love it. I like it. What is the big deal? Why everything is so hard? Because this is me. But when I remember I am migrating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when I put my hand on this, or when I lower my gaze, or when I don't hear, it becomes easy or hard? Answer me. But why don't we think of it this way? Al-Muhajir, the person who migrate, is the person who migrate for the sake of Allah, but without moving a foot. He even said it in another hadith. There's no more hijrah. He said, بعد الفتح, after conquer of Mecca, there is no more migration. You're done. That's it. But every single day, I am migrating, especially living in the West, sometimes even living in a Muslim country. Sayyidina Ibrahim, he gave the best example of how he migrated for no reason other than to please Allah. Why did he leave his wife and his son? Well, you have heard this story many times so far today, right? So he comes in, this is Mecca, there's nothing, desert completely. Sayyidina Ismail, the baby that he was waiting for a long time, وَرَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, he made the dua, Ya Allah, give me the righteous. Allah gave him. And when فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ, when Sayyidina Ismail became certain age, not young, as-sa'i, scholars tells you, meaning this is a boy that now is able to help his dad. Meaning he's like we say, my right hand, right? But before he get that age, he brought them to Mecca and left. That's hijrah. Why? Why did he leave them? Who leaves his wife and son? Or who leaves their, we cannot leave our coffee to fast for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or our tea, or a soda. And he left. And the wife who is Sayyidah Hajar, Allahu amarak, Allah ordered you? He didn't answer. It's so hard. He moved. And then he said, Allah. She said, then go. And then when he moved away, and you read the story, it's so beautiful. When he moved away, when she doesn't see him anymore, he turned back and made this famous dua to Allah, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. Allah, I left min dhurriyyati, my son. عند بيتك المحرم, there was no home. I left them there. Why? ليقيموا الصلاة. And then he made the dua. Make some people, their hearts goes to them. And Allah responded to every dua Sayyidina Ibrahim made in the Quran. This will be a very good point for all of you to know. Look at every dua Sayyidina Ibrahim did in the Quran. Every dua Allah responded on the spot. You know the famous dua Sayyidina Ibrahim did that you and me now sitting in this conference? Does anyone know what dua he made? That's not Sayyidina Ibrahim. Sayyidina Ibrahim did not say, رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا. What dua he made that you and me now sitting in this conference? رَبَّنَا وَجَعَلْنَا مُسْلِمَيْنِ لَكَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِنَا أُمَّةً مُسْلِمَةً. True. The one after that, what did he make? I can't hear you, I'm sorry. No. In the same Surah Al-Baqarah, and repeated in Surah Al-Baqarah, and repeated in Ali Imran, and repeated in Al-Jumu'ah. I gave you a clue. رَبَّنَا وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ. And another one, رَسُولًا مِّنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. And the others, وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ. Immediately, flip the page of Surah Al-Baqarah. The dua, and on the right side, flip the page. The dua was granted. كَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِيكُمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْكُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْكُمْ آيَاتِنَا. Why Sayyidina Ibrahim's dua was, and then Rabbi inni askantu min dhurriyyati. What happened? He left them nowhere. And then what happened? No water, nothing. The whole clan of Jurum came and stayed there. And Sayyidah Hajar was not alone anyway, right? The only dua that was not granted, which one? And Allah told him, don't make this dua anymore, about his father. And why? And why? فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ لِلَّهِ تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ. When Sayyidina Ibrahim came to the fact that my father is my enemy, I'm not going to make dua anymore. What does this has to do with us living here? I don't know how much time left for me. Let me know, please, Sheikh Abdullah. I don't know. I'm not following the time. What does this has to do with me? Questions for everyone. Myself, number one. Have I migrated for Allah? Whether physically, whether in one day, whether without moving. In any point in my life, in any time in my life. One, have I deserted, pushed away my desires, for the sake of Allah, not because I don't like it, not because I cannot get it, not because I'm not interested anymore. Have I? 2, you're following the footsteps of Sayyidina Ibrahim. What sacrifice I did, you did for Allah. You know, when you look at your children, this is very common for parents, and you say, you don't know how much I did for you. I left my career for you. Mothers usually, father usually will say, I worked 16, 18, 20 hours for you. I drove 1 hour away to get a better job so you can go to this school. That's sacrifice. What did I and you do for Allah? Don't answer me, who am I? But what you will tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I say this always to the sisters. What a big sacrifice, so I don't show my hair. Because that's what pleases Allah. Huge sacrifice. Just not showing your hair. For the brothers, lower your gaze. What is the big deal? We see it a huge deal, but nobody does it. But Sayyidina Ibrahim was home alone. That's why, remember yesterday, I shared with you, Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. Remember yesterday when I told you, why did Allah describe him as a nation? He didn't describe Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam as a nation. In fact, he told the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, ثُمَّ أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ أَنِ اتَّبِعْ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. He actually told the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, you need to follow his footsteps because he is an ummah, he's a nation. Sacrifice, migration, immigration is about sacrifice. And Allah, and I want you, if nothing you remember from what I said, I want you to remember this one verse. It's the last verse of Surah Al-Ankabut. And Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who struggle for our capital O, meaning for Allah. Jahadu fina, for Allah, not for yourself, not for your career, not for your children, not for your spouse. Fina, only for Allah. What will happen? لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. And scholars have commented on this word. They said there is so many forms of assertion Allah used in this word to tell people, don't worry, you will get it. لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ لام التوكيد, stressing, you will get it. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And verily Allah with those who does excellence. Try it. I will advise everyone, myself number one before anybody else. Try to migrate one day for the sake of Allah. In your home, don't go anywhere. In your home, one day. You know what's migration? You may never have thought of it this way. You know when you are on your phone, or you're watching TV, or you are eating this beautiful whatever you are eating, and you're so indulged in it, and then the adhan comes in. What normally happens? Normally. Status quo, right? It'll continue. When you stop and you run to your salah, you've just migrated. Migrated from what? From your desires to the what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how we live this deen. This is how we live our Quran. It's not the stories just for stories. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَعِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ مَا كَانَ حَدِيثًا يُفْتَرَى. In this, Allah said this, in this, meaning in this Quran, in these stories. That's the end of Surah Yusuf. It's a ibrah, it's a way of me learning. It's an advice and it's an admonition for those, quote unquote, smart. You know, when you really want to fast, tomorrow is the first 10 days of the hijrah. And one of the most beloved deeds to Allah is fasting. And you want to fast, but it's so hard. It's long. Tomorrow's Sunday. I love my breakfast. And remember when you're going to have your breakfast and you say, no. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. Those who struggle for my sake. And then remember Sayyidina Ibrahim. What is a cup of coffee versus leaving your son in the desert? What is leaving your wife versus not eating your breakfast? This is what we need to learn. Migrate, my brothers and my dear sisters, for Allah. Wallahi alladhi la ilaha illahu, lan yudayya'ana Allah. Exactly the way Allah said it to Sayyidah Hajar. He will never let us down. You know why we are, and please forgive me, and I'm being very honest, I'm giving you, like I'm pouring my heart out. You know why we are not where we want to be? As Muslims in general, as a nation, although we were kuntum khayra ummah, although we are supposed to be the best nation, are we the best nation now? The best ummah now? Anybody can declare this statement? Do you know why? Because the famous statement of Sayyidina Umar, نحن قوم أعزنا الله بالإسلام فابتغينا العزة في غيره فأذلنا الله. Listen to this. He said to Sayyidina Umar, we are a nation, ummah. Allah dignified us, elevated us by being Muslims. We, Muslims, looked for dignity somewhere else. As they say, the melting pot. I want to be like everybody, young and old. By the way, I'm not addressing the youth only, because I have seen adults the same way. I want to be like everybody. I'm not going to get the job, and people will not talk to me, and people will not invite me. I'm going to be alienated. We wanted izzah, dignity somewhere else, فَأَذَلَّنَا اللَّهُ, and Allah debased us and put us down. You want izzah? You want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Struggle for His sake. And I will end up with this famous line. Anybody who worked in this country, I definitely remember when I first started my residency, and if any physician in this room probably will feel this more. When I did residency in the late 1998 and 99, there was no this rules where there's a limited hours for residents. We worked 120 to 140 per week hour. The only statement you hear from everybody in the hospital, no free lunch in this country. You want to be an OB/GYN? That's what you need to do. And all of us did it. Did I like it? Absolutely not. This is OB/GYN. And I tell this to everybody. When I'm going to go to the grave, inshallah, this OB/GYN maybe will come to my safe some. But what about al-akhirah? ألا إن سلعة الله غالية ألا إن سلعة الله الجنة. What Allah has is expensive. In this hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, ألا إن سلعة الله الجنة. Jannah is very expensive, my dear brothers and sisters. It's not an expensive car. It's not an expensive home. It's something you can never even think of. لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت. Not an eye has seen, not an ear have heard about it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among al-mujahidun في ذاته. That we struggled for His sake and we migrated for His sake. May Allah make the journey easy for all of us. May Allah forgive our shortcomings. Alhamdulillah, Rabbuna Allah. I am so grateful. Allah is my Lord because He knows I am extremely weak. Jazakum Allahu khairan. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabi tasliman kathira.